It is October 8th, and I will call the North Kingstown School Committee Business Meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to recess into executive session pursuant to RIGL 42464 for discussion of any discussions of job performance, character, or physical or mental health of a person or persons, provided that such person or persons shall have been notified in advance in writing and advised that it may require the discussion to be held in open meeting pursuant to RIGL 42465A1, Superintendent review, recall, and EANK certified staff. Item number 2, discussion regarding the matter of security, included to but not limited to the deployment of security personnel or devices pursuant to RIGL 42465A3, security systems. Can I get a motion to go into executive?
So moved.
A second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great. we will come back to open session, and I'll disclose that there were no votes taken in executive session today. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Erin Earl.
Here.
Robert King.
Here.
Jennifer Lima. Here. James Sheehan.
Here.
Deborah Lukowsko.
Here.
Christine Lapierre. Joshua Bush.
Here.
Sadie McCann. Here.
Okay, on the calendar.
Tuesday, October 22nd, school committee business meeting, 7 p.m. central office. Tuesday, November 19th, school committee business meeting, 7 p.m. central office. Subcommittee meetings. DEI subcommittee, Wednesday, October 9th, 5:30 p.m. central office. Policy advisory committee, Tuesday, October 15th, 4:30 central office. Building Advisory Committee, Wednesday, October 16th, 4:30, Central Office. Budget and Finance Advisory Committee, Monday, October 21st, 4 p.m., Central Office. Temporary Advisory Committee on District Discipline, Thursday, October 24th, 4:30, Central Office. Health and Wellness Advisory Committee, Wednesday, October 30th, 4:30, Central Office. There will be a public forum on the school bond, Monday, October 21st, 6:30 p.m. at the North Kingstown High School Media Center.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so presentations and recognitions. Dr. Duver, I'll turn over to you to introduce our guests.
Yes, this evening we have two presentations. One is from the Scouts and the other is from the Girl Scouts. For the Scouts, we have Ethan Bachon, who is going to...
that was on the money.
Oh,
Perfect.
Did you take French?
So, welcome.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for coming.
Of course. I appreciate everyone's time tonight. So as I mentioned, my name is Ethan. I'm the district executive for Scouting America down here, covering Warwick to Westerly, so obviously including North Kingstown. I'm excited to talk about not only where scouting's at, but where we hope to go in the near future. Something that you may have heard that I'd like to address right off the bat is that there is a name change coming for the Boy Scouts of America, formally in short order. As of February 2025, the organization will hence be known as Scouting America. So that official name change is coming. So you might hear me switch from Boy Scouts of America to saying Scouting America over the course of this. But I wanted to just kick off, do we have any former Scouts in the room? Anyone that's been involved in Scouting? Yeah? Troop 5 or Troop 152? 5. 5? Very nice. So this is the mission of the Boy Scouts of America, to prepare young people to make moral and ethical decisions over the course of their lifetime by instilling them the values of the Scout oath and law. I'm not going to put our student representative on the spot to repeat those two things right now, but outlining characters and developing character, citizenship, fitness, and leadership is our big 4 aims that we have in the Scouting program that come through those 2 parts. And we actually have 3 operating units down here in North Kingstown that we're very proud of. The first is Pack 5, so that's our Cub Scout program with youth from K to 5 that are operating. They do a bunch of different fun adventures, introducing youth to the outdoors, giving them the opportunity to learn about a couple of the different things we do. And then we have 2 of our traditional troops, that 11 to 17-year-old range that operate here in North Kingstown as well. One is Troop 5 and one is Troop 152. In total, it fluctuates a little bit during the beginning of the year, but we have about 75 scouts that are currently members of the program down here in North Kingstown. One of our bigger communities, one of our bigger groups of scouts in total, and we're very proud of that. But we'd like to continue on that great tradition. We have some great troops here that have a long history here in the town, and we'd love to continue to add to that as well. And you can see here a couple of the different fun adventures they have, be it at summer camp, going on a hike, or maybe going whitewater rafting. But there's a couple of different things that the Scouts provide to the community that we love to continue and love to see expand. Scouts, whether it be for their Eagle project or any other service project that they do, complete service throughout the community, it's actually a requirement for them to advance through the program. It's not about self-interest, it's about giving back to others, and it's something that we emphasize both in the different ranks that we have as well as daily. Youth that participate in the program we see and we consistently hear back are better students in the classroom, both in their work ethic and their manner, Scouting puts a lot of independence into youth, be it 11, 12 years old. It's their opportunity for the first time to figure out, hey, I need to complete this. Maybe it's making a fire to go cooking on a camp out, but it also applies and then carries into the classroom as well, where they take independence over requirements that they need to complete, but also their own work. It also brings families from the community together, which is something we're very proud about. I love being a professional scouter. I get to do it every day, but I'm not interacting with troops and with scouts every day. I get to do fun presentations like this, but I don't get to run and deliver the program. That's actually done by families in the community that act as the scoutmaster, that act as the cub master, and put all that hard work in. But it brings them together and creates a stronger community amongst the parents. But there's still room for growth, and it's something that we actually see in North Kingstown as a large opportunity. The first is family packs and girl troops. So the Boy Scouts of America, and part of the reason why we have that name change coming, is because since 2019 we've incorporated females into our program. At the youth level, we call it family packs. So there can still be packs that are just for boys. However, there are opportunities for family packs in which boys and girls are in the same unit. When we get to middle school and high school, we recognize that there needs to be differences in the program. And when it comes to developmental age groups, we find that it's important to have boy troops and girl troops. So we currently have girl troops being the primary function. Some units in Scouting America are operating a pilot system right now with co-ed units. The Narragansett Council, the council that North Kingstown's a part of, currently operates girl troops and boy troops. That is our current system right now. But there are no girl troops or family packs currently operating in North Kingstown. So that's about half of the population that we're immediately not being able to serve and not being able to provide that program to, that strong scouting program. The other one is Exploring Posts. Exploring Posts are career-oriented programs that are run by different organizations to give youth that are 14 or older the opportunity to see what their career might be like. Traditionally, this happens in police stations and fire stations with police and fire exploring, but it can go anywhere. There's environmental studies, there's going and doing welding, there's automotive, there's every possible career path incorporated into an exploring post one way or another. And so to provide that opportunity to our youth that are a little bit older, primarily in high school, giving them that opportunity to do career exploration we find is something important, but we currently don't have in North Kingstown. But one of the main barriers to this, and what I'm hoping that the school department can work with us on, is providing scouts that information, that opportunity, and building out these programs. Now, I just talked about exploring, and that's one of the bigger areas where that happens. Typically, in exploring, we'll work in coordination with guidance departments to figure out what students are interested in. I can set up a fire exploring opportunity, but if no students in the high school are interested in being firefighters, who is that really benefiting? Instead, we work with guidance departments throughout the state to analyze what students are most interested in. And then on our part, we go out and we try and make partnerships with organizations to provide those youth programs. So if you have 50 kids that are interested in a possible career in automotive, we can go out and we can work with someone to make that happen. So that's part of the relationship that we'd hope to have with the school department, working with those guidance departments and sharing that information. But the other one is communicating, especially at the younger level, directly to what students have as opportunities. Particularly where this is the case is we go and typically do what we call scout talks in elementary schools. It's a quick 1-minute presentation just telling kids what scouting has to offer. That you can go outside, that you can do different learning experiences. You can go swimming, hiking, camping, fishing. And the one that always gets them, making s'mores. That has never failed in elementary school to have scouts or youth excited about joining scouts. Yeah. And especially in towns around here, we've had the opportunity to go and do that. Warwick in particular, we've been able to go and do that. We do that in Westerly and a couple other towns throughout the state, but we would love the opportunity to go in and do that. Flyers are great. Being able to send emails home, going to the open houses, which we were able to do this year, we all greatly appreciate. But that next step to provide youth that opportunity is with doing scout talks. And I'm not sitting here saying today that we want to be the only organization that does that. I know we have the Girl Scouts here tonight, and I'm excited to see this presentation too. But I think we can both agree that every youth is going to benefit from being in one of our programs. Which one it is, that's their choice, that's their family choice. That's awesome. But I think we want to make sure that every youth hears about these different programs. Sure, you know what the Girl Scouts are, you know what the Boy Scouts are, but giving youth that opportunity to see for themselves and hear from leaders, hear from professionals what their opportunities are in a short and appropriate format is something that we're hoping we can do in our schools. Are there any questions about scouting, anything that I mentioned tonight? No?
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all of your times, and I hope to see you guys soon that we consider these opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming out.
So my son was a member of Pac 5 and is in Troop 5, and he loves Boy Scouts. So thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Pam Pinero. I'm so excited to talk to you about Girl Scouts, an organization I have been involved with since I was 6 years old. I am the service unit manager, or SUM, for North Kingstown and Jamestown. This is basically the lead volunteer in town who helps local troops with all things Girl Scouts. This is actually a picture. The scout on the end is Daphne. She was a North Kingstown High School graduate last year, and she earned her Gold Award, the highest award equivalent to Eagle for Boy Scouts, and she's attending college this year and very successful. She was part of the media team that Girl Scouts did, and that's why she's in this picture. In Girl Scouts, our mission is to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. Our council office is Girl Scouts of Southeastern New England. We serve girls from kindergarten through grade 12. We are one of 112 councils chartered by the Girl Scouts of the United States. We include all of Rhode Island, Pawcatuck, Connecticut, and 13 communities in southeastern Mass. Our headquarters is in Warwick, and we operate 2 camps, Camp Hoffman in Kingston, Rhode Island, and Camp Rocky Farm in Newport. The Girl Scout Promise and Law are pillars of our organization. They remind us to do our best in being kind, respecting ourselves and others, making the world a better place, and so much more. Our Girl Scout program has 4 main areas: STEM, life skills, outdoors, and entrepreneurship. Sometimes people don't think of Girl Scouts as outdoors, but I can assure you we do a lot of outdoors. We have 25 local Girl Scouts from North Kingstown, Jamestown, and East Greenwich that at the end of the month are attending a competitive camping weekend at Camp Hoffman, where they will be competing in skills such as string burning, sawing, knots, lashing, orienteering, and much more. Girl Scouts is unique because it is a girl-led organization. This is why there's so many differences in Girl Scouts. Each troop can decide what areas they want to focus on in the program. They can focus on all of them, they can focus on one of them, and they really strive to do girl-led, which is why Girl Scouts ends up producing a lot of leaders in the world, because they start from a young age, and there's progression in Girl Scouts where they get to do more and more as they grow older. We learn by doing, and we focus on cooperative learning among the groups. Girl Scouts is proven to help with 5 key ways: to develop a strong sense of self, display positive values, seek challenges and learn from setbacks, form and maintain healthy relationships, exhibit community problem-solving skills, especially with our highest awards. So these are the different ways you can participate. The most common way is through a Girl Scout troop. Here in North Kingstown, we have 15 troops. We have 176 girls who are in our troops, and we are a volunteer-led organization. We have 90 volunteers in the community. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the volunteers out there if you've ever been a volunteer, if you're a volunteer now. It's the reason we can do so much with our Girl Scouts, and we can't do it without you. So thank you for all you do to give back to these kids. So there are different Girl Scout program levels. So we have the Daisies, which are our kindergarten and first graders, our Brownies, which are second and third graders, our Juniors, fourth and fifth graders, our Cadets, which are middle school, sixth, seventh, and eighth, Seniors, ninth and 10th, and our Ambassadors, which are 11th and 12th. Now I have a quiz for you. Can anyone guess how many Girl Scout cookies NK and Jamestown sold last year? Let me give you a hint. NK loves their Girl Scout cookies.
Okay, I know I contributed heavily to that number, so let's think.
At least 2-3 dozen.
Yeah, at least.
Put my neck out there.
At least. 33,455 packages of Girl Scout cookies. So that's, I did the math, it's like over 100, it's around 165, a little more than that per kid in Girl Scout cookies. So I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all the local businesses who support our Girl Scout cookie booths. It's really a great opportunity for girls to interact with the community. They really talk about life skills, making change, taking credit cards, trying to sell their product. This is where entrepreneurship is really shines. I always say it's a fundraiser, but it's a learning tool for these kids. They create their own little business through it. And our local troops, so the proceeds, they all stay local, and there's different, the money goes different places, the council office, the service unit, and the troops. But it helped local troops raise over $28,000 for their programs. Our girl is Girl Scouts, no financial, there shouldn't be financial limitations to participate in Girl Scouts. And we really use our fundraising and support from other organizations and donations to help defray costs for people.
So by buying cookies, it will help girls get to Girl Scouts.
That's right.
Okay.
And it helps support all the council programs, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. You got a little ways to go. How to get started? You should visit gssne.org, and that is our local organization site, and that will help you get started in Girl Scouts. Really, every troop needs 2 adult volunteers who are unrelated. So it really comes down to volunteers. If we have the volunteers, the girls will come. It just takes 2 adults to volunteer, start a troop. We are very fortunate. I have a huge team of volunteers who help me oversee all the troops. We have years and years and years of experience in Girl Scouts, so you're very well supported. Let's see. And then, this leads into the last side, which is really about the troop leader training. Girl Scouts is as much for the adults as it is for the kids. These are skills that are transferable to jobs, to your careers, to the rest of your life. So there's lots of support to be a Girl Scout. So I thank you again. We also enjoyed being able to go to the open houses this year, so I thank you for allowing us to do that, and thank you for inviting us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Okay. So we'll move on to our next section, which is citizens' comments. Can we have anyone signed up? Anyone here for citizens' comments? Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the superintendent report. Dr. Dugo?
Yes. So I do have a few items. So I do want to do a few district highlights. One, I just want to share at Hamilton, they are creating leadership opportunities for their students, which I think is a great thing. I know a lot of schools do it. Dr. Sliger had pointed out a few things that they're doing and asked me to share what they're doing in school. One of the items, you sent me a picture. They have students that help with the flag in the morning, and so they learn how to put the flag up and putting the flag on the pole as something that they do as a leadership within the school each morning. They're called the Hamilton Flag Crew. I know a lot of schools have other leadership opportunities that they do as well. Also, the schools had this on there, but also wanted to talk about the parade, the 350th anniversary parade. We had a very good showing from the school department, and I want to thank Mr. Meznati for leading that for the school department and organizing that, and helping to put that together and working with Mr. McCoy and Kate Glass. He put that out there, looking for participation. We had every school did something different. Each of the elementary schools are there. They had banners, they had their mascot. Students and families were there in the parade. Everyone really had a good time. The middle schools each had their own float. Davis Middle School had a float of the dragon, which is their mascot. And I think it was kind of cool. Every single student helped with that, with putting the dragon together. And then Lakeford Middle School had a float as well. They had pieces of WMS and highlighting. They had sculpture of the building and awards that they've received from different student groups, and everyone participated. I want to thank the staff for helping. There were some key teachers at each of the buildings that helped with that. At the high school, we had the band and student leadership and DECA. We also had the middle school band. It was just great to see everyone coming together, and I think also too just from the town side of what they did. That's the largest parade I've ever seen here in North Kingstown in my time living here. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great day. So I just want to thank everyone for that and participating. And then the last item that I'm here, just want to kind of update. Others have asked about the school safety grant through RIDE. So we are going to apply for that grant. We have looked at a few different options of things, talked to other administrators in the district. With the grant, there are a few different things we're doing. One is to increase the number of radios we have, the emergency security radios that we are using. We definitely can benefit by having more to make sure others across the district have them. And then also, we are going to work on renovating the evacuation bridge over at Forest Park. That's been a concern, so we see this as a good opportunity to do that. Mr. Murphy is working along with the school on that, and with the ILO grant as well, because that bridge also provides access to where there can be outdoor classrooms. So we're kind of combining the school safety grant along with another grant that we have. So we are moving forward on that.
Great. Any questions for Dr. Duba based on his report?
I just wanted to also echo what you said about thanking everybody for the participation in the parade. Like, we were in the front, and so when we got to the end, we were able to stop and watch everybody come through, and that was amazing. Like, to see all the different schools, and to see all the kids, and see everything that they did.
You see, they were having fun.
So much fun,
Yeah,
so much fun. And I have to say that dragon, whose name I found out is Bartholomew, was absolutely my favorite part. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Questions for Ken? Okay. Did you get to go in the parade?
I did.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Did you walk with DECA?
No, I was with leadership.
Oh, awesome.
That was awesome.
Very good. And just quickly welcome officially to Sadie for her first meeting, and then welcome back to Josh, our student representatives. We're so glad you're here. Okay, so let's move on to routine items. Can I get a motion to seal the executive minutes from today? And as I mentioned earlier, we did not take any votes in executive session today.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then we'll move to the consent agenda. Before we get a motion for that, would anyone like to pull out anything from the consent agenda?
E2, please.
Okay, anything else? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda with E2 removed?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then can I get a motion for E2, please?
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Did you get that one, Jules?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Lima, do you have a question? Or?
I did. I had a question. So I just wanted to find out specifically for the TA and the bus monitor positions, and I saw we got an update today reducing the number of vacant positions by a few. But we have talked before about, outreach for those positions, and, maybe with our own school community, there might be people who might be interested. So I'm just wondering when we might be able to do that.
We are. And I will say that I attempted to do that last week, and other things kind of got in the way. And I will make sure that's done this week.
Okay,
Because I asked for the information that was provided to me, and I just
did nothing with it.
nothing.
No,
I have
nothing,
it. Just
but
things
yeah, like
came
you
up,
said,
and I
other
knew you were
things
going to ask
come
about
up.
that,
Yeah,
but
no,
things
that's
did
good.
come up. But I do have that.
If we can do
Yes.
that, that would be great. Thank you.
I will just add that we have seen much longer versions of this list in the past, so I would just want to commend you for the work that you've done to really, and the administration to get these positions filled. It's nice to see such a short list.
Thank you, and I will share that with others because everyone is
Absolutely.
working hard with recruiting, in different ways. I know specifically with the TAs, Dr. Santa is working with students she has and access she has through the universities of posting and getting people, which is very helpful, especially with those types of positions and teacher positions that were out there. We're also increasing our partnerships with the local colleges as well, so that we get students in here and then we're able to get them in positions when they finish.
Awesome.
And just also with this, recently we hired another bus driver and a bus TA. So those are all, we're moving in the right direction. So.
Okay.
Thank you. And so I think, as we know, especially for the TAs, that is a huge thing for the students in the classrooms and whatnot. And so obviously if there's any additional resources or needs that you all are finding as you're trying to fill these positions, I definitely agree with Jen on trying to increase advertising and different things. We can definitely try to help support that. But if there's any additional needs or whatnot, please let us know because we want to make sure that the schools have what they need to be successful. Any other questions or comments on this item? I think this one didn't need to be approved no matter what, so it really honestly shouldn't have been, it's okay. I think we can just move on because we're not approving that,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll move on to the reports. The only one that's on here is the policy advisory. Just to note, Jules, the CLAC met yesterday, and so we just want to make sure that goes on the next one. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Jen.
The Policy Advisory Committee last met on September 30th. We discussed policy JICD and JICDR, which cover physical restraint of students, and the recommended revisions to those policies are on our agenda for this evening. Those policies were reviewed as a result of a mediation agreement that the district is a party to, and also to ensure best practices are being followed. We discussed consolidating and revising the current policies around assignment of students to schools and reviewed the current HIV policy. Those policies, as well as attendance, transportation-related policies, school committee meetings, and dress code will be in our agenda for the next meeting, which will take place on Tuesday, October 15th at 4:30 p.m. at the Central Administration Building.
Great. Any questions about the policy advisory committee? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to the next items. Under unfinished business, the first item is CIP, existing bond, future bond. Can I get a motion for that?
Make a motion to discuss.
Second.
Okay, so this is a update from the school bond for the community forum. Dr. Duba?
So we have scheduled, and we'll get information out to the community regarding a public forum that we're going to hold on October 21st. It'll be a forum to provide public time to come and ask questions regarding the upcoming bond, not so much questions for the bond, but just the projects that we're doing. We'll have a short presentation kind of highlights, because we've had a lot at school committee and the building committee meetings. So we'll provide kind of high-level overview of that, time for members of the community to ask any questions. We'll answer what we can. If there's something we can't, we'll add it to an FAQ that we're putting out. It's going to be October 21st. It will be held at the high school in the media center, and will begin at 6:30.
Will we be live streaming it or videotaping it?
We'll do one of either one. We'll
Okay.
make sure we have.
And how are we going to be advertising this? Because I got to be honest, there's a lot of people out there who either don't know that there's a bond on the ballot, think that the questions are the same, or so there definitely is an information gap.
Yeah,
out there.
we can put something in the newspaper. I know last time there was a mailing that went out through the town. I don't believe we're doing that this time. So, we'll advertise between Facebook, our website. We can go to the town and put on their Facebook page as well. We can look at putting an ad out in the paper.
Are we gonna send a district-wide email?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would have gone out yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
That's,
I'll give you a pass for this
yeah.
week.
That was.
So that was one of the other questions that I had, just to follow up from when we had discussed this the last time. And I know you just briefly mentioned the FAQ. Is that coming?
Yes, so we are working on
Okay.
when to send that as well.
I did see that the website, the school facility tab was updated, so thank you for that.
Jules and I are working on that, so we're getting that done.
Jen, sorry, the agenda item 2 is just the community forum, so.
Oh, okay, okay.
No
Well,
worries.
on the community forum, will there be tax impact information
Yes.
available at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ralph and I, we discussed that, and we're gonna have that information. He'll be there as well for the presentation.
Okay, okay. And will there have been an open house or a walkthrough at the schools prior to the
I'm
community
trying
forum?
to schedule that. I'm trying to find time to
Okay,
get that in there. We do have the video. We will schedule something. I will say, we didn't have a large turnout when we did the tours before, but we will set up tours.
okay, awesome, thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else about the community forums? Okay, thank you so much for setting those up. Okay, moving on to the next item, can I get a motion for the organizational chart?
Are we reapproving with are we just?
So what happened last time,
discussing?
there were some lines and things that just had to be shifted around,
think
so
it's
that's
just
what was here. So, I mean, it's just, this is the revised chart.
Just make a motion to discuss
All of-
it.
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Can we get a
Second.
second?
Second.
Great, go ahead, Dr. Ba.
No, so this is the revised chart. There were a few items with lines that just had to be shifted, just as far as showing levels. And that was completed. Made sure that all of the titles were correct, with changes that we had made from the last time. And that it's pretty much the same as far as organization of where everyone is and each department.
Questions to Ken about this?
Did we, Jules, did we put this up there today? I know we met earlier when we were talking about where on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But I know where to
that'll
put it.
get up there this week, so we talked about where we're placing it on the website, so it's gonna be under the About Us, as well as links on the superintendent page and under, so when you click on About Us, there'll be a tab for it, and then on the About Us page, there'll be a link, and there'll also be a link on the superintendent's page.
Great, thank you.
I would definitely suggest putting the years on each of the pages, just
It's
because,
there,
is it? On the one that,
should be, this is what we sent out.
we
So
can't see it, so maybe it's hidden under the packet page, like
Probably.
thingy on our thing.
But-
So if it's in the bottom right corner, that's why we can't see it, but that's great. Is there a reason, Ken, just wanted to hear your rationale on why, where you put NK citizens and then why no line, and it looks like slightly below the school committee, is that intentional?
No, there's no lines, I just figured that, and looking at others, there wasn't a line, just the citizens are there.
Yep,
But, off on the side, it wasn't anything intentional at all.
okay.
I think it's just, working in Excel and moving it, and that kind of thing, like, this is kind of that little, every time you shift something, it moves, even with the lines. If you look at, which one was it? Hold on 1 second. It was one of them that, there it is. So, when you look at teaching and learning, so the assistant superintendent department, his department, data manager, I was trying to shift because the data manager is not over the director of curriculum, but as I shift that down, the lines move, and then it looked like it was actually coming out of the director of curriculum's office versus coming from the assistant superintendent. So that's why it is where it is.
Any other questions regarding this? Great, thank you so much for the revised version, we appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the next item, district goals, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to discuss.
Give me a second.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ken, for providing the updated one. Because we got it late. I don't think we're ready to approve, but if you want to just note or point out anything, you don't need to walk us through the whole document, but I think the committee can definitely look through it and give you any feedback via email would be my recommendation before the next meeting, hoping to approve them at the next one.
Yeah,
But
I wouldn't expect
yeah,
that
I know.
you're
It's okay.
approving them tonight.
Yeah.
It's just everything that's
Yeah,
been
no
going
worries.
on. So I did get that sent to you, but I did update it based on the feedback from the last meeting. So under academic achievement, the science goal is there. And I just want to make a statement that, we have a district strategic plan with goals. Those are the goals that we have, right? So if something, may not, from the district strategic plan may not be here, it's still something we're working on because it is there. So under academics, we do have looking at improving academics in ELA and math and science through RICAS, the SATs, and the SATs. The goal that was added in here was a goal around subgroup demographics, so that is there as well. So I'll just read that because we didn't go over this last time. In the 2024-25 school year, the following subgroups will improve in the area of RICAS math by 3 to 4%. We have each of the groups that we have subgroups for. And so if we look at that information is there. So Black students increase from 13.5% to 16.5%. American Indian students increase from 14.3% to 17.3%. And if you look at this, the 3 to 4% increase is higher than the other goals up above because the gaps are bigger, right? So you're going to look for a little bit of a higher increase. So that is the same for each of the content areas as well as the assessments that we use. Wherever there's an NA, it was because the group was too small to report on or there were no students.
I'll give feedback later too, but one suggestion on that one maybe is just to think about the way that we word it. The way that it's kind of written now, it makes it sound like it's the student's fault, and we know like a lot of things go into play on why subgroups might be disproportionately different.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of saying like the following subgroups will improve, maybe the district will do something to help the students improve, or I don't want to make it
So
sound
if
like
we're
it's
going
the
to do that for
students.
that, then all of the other goals need to be written as well, so they're all the same. So.
This one particularly, though, I think is important because there's a reason for it. So we can talk about it, but that would just be a suggestion I have.
Number 2 didn't change. That's the goal for the vision of the graduate. Number 3 did not change. That's the goal for student attendance. Number 4 is the goal on equitable education and working environment. So the feedback was to make sure this was aligned to the vision. So that's what I did here. The first goal under that group is in coordination with the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning and district leaders. Will ensure equitable evidence-based instruction and professional development will ensure increased achievement for all students. Second one is for students with disabilities. So it says in coordination with the Director of Student Services and district leaders, will ensure special education programming pre-K through age 22 promotes effective instruction of all learners. And then the last one, in coordination with school representatives and the school committee, we will work towards developing policies, practices, and partnerships to address inequities, encourage empathy and kindness, and build a culture of belonging to ensure all in our community thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. The next goal, what is added here are the most recent data points from our survey works. So that is listed for each category. When you look at each one, school climate, building leadership, there are different surveys. So I noted each survey. So for example, under school climate, the student surveys are broken up from grades 3 through 5 and grades 6 through 12. There is no way to break it down further because that is how it's reported. So for school climate, we're looking for a 5% gain. So grades 3 through 5 currently are at 60. The survey results for school climate is at 68%, so we're looking at an increase to 73%. And then at the secondary level, going from 42% to 47%. 5% gain in building leadership, which is perceptions of leadership. The two surveys are broken down by teachers, and the other one are support professionals. So under the teacher survey, and this is district-wide, going from 59% to 64%, and for support professionals, going from 71% to 76%. The next goal area is in professional learning, so that's the professional development that we are providing. and opportunities of professional development. Some of it's opportunities that they can have on their own as choice. And so we're looking for a 5% gain in that area as well. For teachers, going from 43% to 48%. And for support professionals, going from 49% to 54%. And then the last one is frequency of professional learning activities. Again, we're looking for a 5% increase. With the teachers, 35% to 40%, and support professionals from 33% to 38%. The other goal that was added in here under finance and facilities, under letter B for North Kingstown, will determine a comprehensive vision for school facility upgrades that aligns with our vision for student learning. I added in one regarding our CIP. So North Kingstown administration will collaborate with the school building committee and school committee for a successful completion of the proposed capital improvement plan. And then the last goal is on redistricting. North Kingstown administration will work with school community stakeholders to make a recommendation for school redistricting to the school committee for the 25-26 school year.
Okay, thank you so much. Any initial thoughts or comments to Dr. Duba? Thank you for going back through and incorporating our feedback. Like I said, I feel like digesting it and then sending direct to Dr. would probably be the most efficient, but if anyone does want to say anything, you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, at quick glance, it looks like you captured almost everything that we discussed about, and I appreciate you taking the time and going through and doing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's move on for that from now, and we'll have that on a future agenda. Next item, can I get a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Okay, and then Mr. Mezzanotte, is this one to you? Or
Yeah.
Dr. Go ahead.
Yep, so the grading policy committee, we have formed a group. Our first meeting is Thursday afternoon. And as far as the timeline, I mentioned this before, but it does take some time to do this work, to get it right and to have like proper discussions around grading purposes and best practices, and also looking at other policies and using them as models and guides. My anticipation, and don't hold me to this exactly because this is a fluid process, so I just want to preface that by saying it, but you can bring it back. This is my foresight. It's saying I'm thinking springtime. I can bring recommendations. We, not I, can bring recommendations forward to the policy subcommittee to make for grading policy changes. I'm thinking sometime around April, May. All right?
Thank you. Are there students on that group that's been
Yes.
formed? Awesome. Middle and high?
Just high.
Just high,
Yeah.
okay. And just to confirm that the policy changes that we recently made,
Mm-hmm.
short-term,
Mhm.
you still feel are sufficient to hold over until
Yes.
the committee does its work through?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I would just add, I wouldn't make any changes to our grading policy at this point because the school year started. So I think the timeline that Mr. Mezzanotte put together from my educational perspective is very appropriate. And I think that will give the policy committee time to take the recommendations from the educators for us then to put the policy to put in place for the start of the school year.
No, I thank you for putting together the team to work on this. I know we've talked about it before, but they definitely need to be updated, so I'm glad to hear that we're putting eyes on it.
You don't want to change the model of evaluation midstream.
Right, you can't do that.
It's not fair to the kids.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments from the committee? Okay, maybe Lander. No
No, I
worries.
just had a terrifying thought of taking midterms and then having somebody say, "Oh yeah, they're the whole new policy was great."
No, that's a very good point. No.
Thank you for your
Yes.
feedback.
Great. Okay, thank you so much on that. And then we'll move on to policies. Ms. Lima?
I will make a motion to approve KDB2, the FERPA and student records policy.
Second.
So this is the second read of a new policy which outlines the rights under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act for parents and guardians and students who are 18 years of age or older with respect to the students' education records. We saw this policy at the last meeting. The language for this policy comes from the federal model policy. We did make some personalization based on our specific district and how we operate. At this time, I am recommending approval of this policy.
Sorry, did you have a motion in a second?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or discussion on this one? Okay, Okay, just one note that once this policy goes into effect, that will prompt some communication from the administration to put us in compliance, so that is good. Okay, hearing no other discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I will make a motion to approve policy ECF, the Energy Management, Conservation, and Sustainability Policy.
Second.
This is the second read of a revision to an existing policy. As part of the RIDE necessity of school construction process, we needed to show that we have a plan for efficient energy operations throughout the district. We saw this at our last meeting. At this time, I'm recommending approval of this policy.
Any further conversation or discussion? Jen, just to clarify, was this the one that combined two different ones?
No,
Okay.
it added things
Added
to the
things
existing,
to the existing one. Okay,
yes.
so we don't need to go back after this and
No.
do something. Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. Okay. Hearing no other discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Next one.
I will make a motion to discuss JICD physical restraint and JICDR physical restraint procedure.
Okay, can we get a second?
Second.
Okay.
So this is the first read of an existing policy, JICD is, that has been updated based on a mediation agreement that the district is a party to, and to ensure that we're following best practices. The majority of this policy is directly from the state regulations, with the additions from the mediation agreement noted in the policy where they are outside of the state, or in addition to the state regulations. The Policy Advisory Committee also suggested adding language to cover what happens when a restraint is performed by someone who's not a North Kingstown School District employee, for example, first responders, in the normal course of their duty, but and how that is communicated when it occurs on school grounds. We also discussed how this policy pertains to bus personnel, and that part is going to need to be continued to be discussed. We will see this policy one more time before we vote on it.
Any questions regarding this? One just addition to what you were talking about, that Rachel was our Director of Student Services was very
Yes.
Involved in the process of this as
Yes,
well.
this has been in the Policy Advisory Committee for a while, and
Yeah.
it's been through everybody. And when this is approved, we will sunset JICDR, the physical restraint procedure. Anything that needed to be retained from that policy has been rolled into the JICD policy.
Okay.
Jen, what was the issue with EMS coming?
No issue, just that, like, right now, there's no formal process for documenting the restraint. The policy only covers restraints that are performed by
You
North
guys.
Kingstown employees.
Right.
But our feeling was that if, first responders need to be called in and a restraint is performed, we still should be notifying the parents that happens. So that's just to solidify that in the
It was just a
policy.
communication.
Yeah.
It probably is happening in practice, to be honest, but it was just putting it in so that it was covered underneath the policy.
Right.
Okay. Any further discussion? Do you want to wait to call the question, or do you want to just call it?
I'll call it.
Yeah, okay, we can call the question then. All those in favor?
No, there is no, it's just.
Oh, there's no,
It's a first
never mind, we're
reading.
just reading.
It's a first
There's no
Yeah.
question,
Yes.
never mind, sorry.
Yes.
We don't need to do the second one though either.
No.
Because that's kind of that
Yep.
same explanation. Okay, so we'll see that one more time.
We'll see both of
Sorry.
those at the next
I
meeting.
lost
Yep.
my way in where we were. Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for that. We'll move on to new business. The first item, can I get a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and so the committee had asked just to get an update on kind of bus driver, bus monitor, and bus TA vacancies, seeing kind of where we were in compliance with the laws, et cetera. And so I'll turn it over to Dr. Duga. And I know that's kind of part of the other report out that we got, but just wanted to specifically highlight, I think, this one and talk it through.
So when we look at the vacancy report, we had on there were 2 open positions, but if I'm correct, of those 2 open positions, we were down to 1 open position at this point. And all of our bus TA, the aid positions are fulfilled. And our bus monitor, we have 3 open bus monitor positions. So we're still looking.
Sorry, do we have the attachment you have?
I'm going off of the vacancy list. Right
Oh,
now.
okay. I wasn't sure if you had another one.
No, this was a printout for me.
Okay, no worries. I just was looking for it, so it was not. That is why I can't find it.
So there, we're looking, right? So we need one more driver, minibus driver. We need 3 more bus monitors. When we don't have a monitor for the bus, there are certain procedures we have to follow. One is applying for variances with the state through the Department of Education. So we have, every year we do. So currently we had to apply for that variance that goes to the state. And we let them know where we stand regarding having a monitor or not having a monitor. So right now we have one bus that does not have a monitor during the morning or afternoon. So that bus, and ask Michelle to correct me if I'm wrong in making this statement, but within that procedure they have to make sure that they are providing the stops on the door side of where the children are, correct? They have to be using their PA system, making announcements that they are stopping and that they're coming to a stop and that they're leaving. Is there anything else that I'm missing on that part?
Door side.
And
Sorry,
door,
can you
yes,
let
and
Michelle come up?
door side. So it's early. So drop off has to be on the door side of the bus to the stop, and they have to be using their PA system.
So when you say door side, right, like if my house is here and normally there's a monitor and the child gets off here and
They're not
crosses with the
supposed to be.
monitor,
They
the bus
can't
has
cross
to
the
come
street.
around and
Yes.
bring them so
So
that
the
they're
routes
gonna,
are designed that way as the driver's driving, they are stopping door side to where the bus stop is for each student. Just looking at this system here.
So there's one bus
And
that has
then
no monitors
There's
at
one.
all.
There's
Yeah.
one bus that does not have a monitor, and then there is another bus that only has a monitor in the afternoon. So there's no morning monitor. And then we have a third bus that has 2 different monitors. I think we got that figured out. So there are 2 different. There was a bus that we had that the monitor couldn't work every day, but was most days. But Michelle was able to work that out with another monitor. So that bus does now have a monitor
There's full
every
coverage, it's just
day,
different people.
morning and afternoon. So we're working through what we need, but we do need 3 more monitors in order to be 100% covered.
Buses that are deficient in monitors, are they the K through 5 where it's required by law?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah, and some of those buses aren't just the K through 5; they're also the same bus that would do a middle school or high school route. But when you apply for a variance, you're applying for a variance for a bus that's either doing a K5 run or just a K run. You don't have to apply for the other.
Have we received the variances?
So we applied for it. We have followed up on it, and you might just coming only because when I ask you a question, no one else can hear.
So we did. We applied for the variance on August 21st. It was submitted. And last week when we looked at it again, it was still in the submitted. It was pending. I reached out to statewide. They, in turn, reached out to somebody at RIDE for me to find out why it wasn't in the approval status. I guess there is some job movement there. Somebody had resigned. They hadn't hired somebody to fill that position as of yet. So she did follow up and sent it to me just Friday afternoon, I believe it was, to say that it was approved.
I guess my question would be why, prior to us having that variance approved, were we running school buses without monitors?
So I'll step in. That's a process with RIDE. We did put it through. It was, on their end, it was taking longer for that to come through. So there are times that, we're waiting on them of approving it. We went through the proper steps of notifying them. Basically what it is, it's a notification to them so they know, and then they let us know, okay, we know that you don't have a monitor for that bus.
So it's not a permission process where they say, okay, we're granting you permission to run that bus without a monitor. It's more of a, I'm letting you know this bus isn't going to have a monitor, and they say, okay.
We're notifying them.
It is an approval process, though.
Well, so you would expect you're getting a response right away. right?
Yeah, but
But we
I-
can't hold off on providing transportation to our students because the State Department is behind on responding to our requests.
But I guess my question is, we didn't have permission, is what you're saying. We did it anyway. Why is there not a backup plan for that when this happens, you know, we utilize somebody else? Maybe Michelle rides a bus.
So, Michelle?
I have been. So we're in compliance. That's one of the 3 that we're trying to hire. I'm on a bus in the morning, 2 runs this morning and 1 run this afternoon. So it takes me out of my office. So we're doing everything that we can to have monitors on all of the buses. But I can only be on so many buses. I can't be on all of them. The next step would be us.
And I will say, if someone wanted to say we're
Hold
not
on,
we're
just
not
look at-
doing something by law, we did everything we were supposed to do to comply with what the state wants us to do. It's on them
And I think-
that it took this long for them to respond to us, with us having to reach out to them. I mean, we did it a few weeks ago when I was with you because we weren't seeing anything.
Correct.
I think for
And
me,
we
it's
had
figuring out a
to,
solution.
we
too,
had to
like,
find, because even the people they had noted weren't the people in the office anymore.
But I guess my concern is none of this, I certainly was not aware of until a parent verbalized a concern about it. The law says we have to have their permission. We assumed we're getting their permission, but we went ahead and did it anyway. And a parent notified, I mean, I responded to her and she actually contacted me on phone to discuss how her displeasure. And more so her displeasure that I, as a school committee member, didn't even know this was going on.
I guess I would ask the school committee, what would be your recommendation if we're in a time lapse where the Department of Education is not replying to us like they should be and saying, yes, we received your application and we're doing it, what would you like us to do? Because we're doing everything we can, including having the supervisor of transportation ride the bus as a monitor.
Yeah, I mean,
After
Other than
we-
that, we wouldn't be able to
But
provide
that didn't happen.
transportation.
Michelle didn't start riding the bus until after an issue was brought to our attention.
I have
think
been
so.
riding the buses since the first day of school. Either a minibus or a big bus. I have been riding them.
I don't think
one
it's fair
question
for
I
us to be
have-
accusing
No.
her of certain
No,
things
I'm
where we're
just
doing
saying,
our
I
best
just
to
don't
get put.
understand.
I hear
how
your
we're
concern about the
riding a bus,
communication, Debbie. I
you know?
hear you. Yeah. One question I have, Ken, is so I know obviously TAs have certain certification like that they need, and bus drivers, of course, do. What is the like job requirements that we're looking for, or for a bus monitor? Like, what are there special things that people need to have that are creating barriers?
For a bus monitor, for a bus TA, there is nothing special that they need to apply for the job. They get training, they need to be physically fit. to
Yeah.
do the job.
And I would imagine pass the BCI and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
that's
there's no
BCI.
like schooling or no certification or anything.
It's
So
not like,
this is
it's
something.
not like being a teacher assistant in a
Yeah.
classroom.
Okay, so this one could be accessible to anyone.
And this also
We
touches
can have a
on,
school
Yeah.
committee member do it.
this also touches,
One of us.
Ken, this also touches on the situation that Janice talked about and others about compensation for these positions to be more competitive,
Yes.
so that we can have a greater number, so we won't have anything falling through.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, whether we're in compliant, like, I understand the delay and whatnot, and I hear Debbie's concern as well. I think for me, it's just making sure that the K through 5 students are having the staff that we should have on the buses, and I think we're all in agreement that having a monitor is better than not having a monitor, and
completely
so.
agree that we need to have.
Yeah, and so it's not, for me, it's not a blame thing, it's just how can we, as a school committee and an administration, figure out a way to get these people, the buses fully staffed, to not have Michelle on the buses and be able to give her attention to the things she needs to be doing. So I think for me, as a school committee, it's hoping to learn what would help at this point on October 8th, because we've known about this problem since August 21st, and so what
I think some
do
of
we
it,
need to
and
do?
I know I've mentioned before, is if we can talk about possibly doing a sign-on bonus that may get people to apply if we're able to do a sign-on bonus. I know that's something we'd have to approve through the school committee in order to do. I think if there are people out there that are willing to, it might be the pay that's holding them back.
I think we've talked
Also,
a couple
these are
times.
different hours. I mean,
About incentives.
hours is what we're,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, so I think-
Because there's two issues.
Find
It's
funds
the
available.
salary period, right, too low, and that's something that the budget and finance subcommittee is gonna look at. But incentives is definitely something that we've brought up in terms of incentive and communicating out that there is an opening, maybe outside the normal channels. And I hear you said that we were gonna advertise, that's great. And I would say if you have a proposal for incentives, bring that to us and let us review, because I think we all agree, like, if you've submitted the paperwork to RIDE and RIDE isn't doing anything, the buses still have to run regardless, and it's better to have people on them than not. My only question about the variances is, so like, how does that work? In August, you go, okay, I've got 3 buses, and you send it in, and then that's it? Or do you have to do it every time there is a, like, disruption in the staffing?
So it's at any point that we don't have a monitor. If someone tomorrow says, you can't do the job anymore, we have a monitor,
for the 4th bus.
we have to submit.
Okay, so it's not a one and done, it's every time there is a situation, okay. And is there ever a scenario where RIDE would come back and say, you're not getting the variance?
I don't believe so, because they have certain reasons why you're asking for it, and procedures of what you need to put in place when you don't have a monitor.
One of the questions that I had about this situation is how are the parents and guardians notified if their school doesn't have a monitor? Are they send an email explaining why? Are they send an email explaining what we're doing to keep their kids safe, like the things that you explained to us? Did they receive communication regarding that? And if not, can we do that perhaps, just to make them, just aware of what's going on?
Notify
Yes.
families of
We will do so.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. I just think that would, like, even just hearing you say, like, the things that you were doing, like changing the route so they're getting dropped off and not having to cross, and having them make an announcement, that as a parent makes me feel like, okay, I'd rather have a monitor, but, I think just having that communication would be really helpful.
Can I also suggest, having been previous lifetime in charge of paramedic units with staffing, and there's no, you put a unit out of service because somebody banged out sick. We had a list of per diems, people who we trained to what we need, and then you call
I
them
will
in.
let Michelle talk about the subs we've.
The lack of, thereof.
I know, but if
We don't
offered,
have-
like, there's no special training for this. So, like you
And we-
said, school board members are eligible to do it. I didn't know that. I'm retired, I could have done it. I have members in my neighborhood who probably won't do it every day, but if it were a once in a while thing, they might. So
And I said that, but actually as a school committee member, you can't work for the school department. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but.
I think to Debbie's point
But
is,
anyone out there, if there are
there may be
any
people who
out
aren't
there that
willing to do
want
a full-time commitment, but would be able to
Right.
get trained and
we
be.
need Plan B.
Yes.
Like, if somebody's out,
And
and
so
it
we
shouldn't
do. We
all
need
be
to-
Michelle's
we need to-
responsibility, but she should be able to go down a list and call somebody.
So Michelle has a list. We don't have many, but we do. I don't want you to think we don't, but we do. It's just
Yeah, so I think
not on this.
I think for me, it sounds like, definitely I agree with Jen that if you want to bring us a proposal for signing bonuses or whatnot, or at least, I think at minimum, a good plan for what we might want to do in budget season regarding this issue and some other staffing salary issues. But also, I think, to me, it sounds like advertising, and figuring out how to get the word out a little bit stronger, and then also trying to strengthen that sub list sounds like a good kind of path forward. Because I definitely think that might help. Like, I know you all are, and I know you have, there's only so many hours in the day, but I do think, like, getting people on these buses is definitely extremely important, and so anything that we can do to support that, whether it be, like, somebody in the HR office that can help with the advertising, like a temporary, there's got to be something maybe that we can do to help it not have to be on Michelle's shoulders, who's also obviously going above and beyond running the buses and doing the things, but, like, definitely I think
Right.
getting the word
Even
out would be
put a poster
helpful.
down at the senior center. There's a lot of people who
Down on
might be
that
willing
bus.
to do that once in a while.
Okay. Any further questions or comments regarding this?
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so much.
Have a good night.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is an update on state aid. Can I get a motion for discussion?
I'll make the motion to discuss.
Second.
And then can we, we'll turn it over to Dr. Dewar for an update.
So in your packet, you have a letter that Leslie Ann Powell, our finance director, provided to me. It's a similar letter that I also provided to the town manager. Back over the summer, we discussed the state aid. On June 17th, the governor approved the state aid, and so we received additional state aid, and it's outlined here, and I'll explain that to you. That state aid includes two different buckets, right? So you have your aid that you're getting, which, well, first let me step back. The proposed state aid, let me start there. The proposed aid prior to June 17th was for $13,257,645. And at the time, it excluded the MLL categorical. And the MLL categorical wasn't part of that. It has to be specifically spent on areas within MLL. And it's done through a reimbursement process. Okay? That's how it was done. Then it changed. And the new aid includes the MLL categorical, but it's not where you get reimbursed. It's part of that aid. So the state aid number that was approved on June 17th is now $13,351,579, which is inclusive of the MLL categorical. Our MLL did go down some. It's now $45,954. It was, prior to being approved, $56,154. So there was a little bit of a reduction there. It's now part of that. So when the state aid goes to the town, that has to be counted in, and they have to give those funds to us. In addition to that, there's another bucket of funds that you get from state aid, which is your high-cost special education category. That's provided to each district based on special education cost of high needs. We have been approved to receive $143,213. That total is $13,494,792. That number is different from what it was prior. So we sent a letter to the town so they have an understanding of that. They're going to get that approved so it's all correct in the budget. So we all have the correct numbers. The additional aid from prior to June 17th to now is in the amount of $237,147. That's made up of the unrestricted aid difference of $191,193 and the MLL of $45,954. We've communicated with this. We had a meeting with the town, with Mr. Mollis and with Ms. Bridgham. Everyone understands that. It'll go to town council at their next meeting.
It was on their agenda already, though, or has it changed from what they had on their agenda?
So it was on their agenda. These are the most current numbers.
So it changed again?
Yep.
The number they had
Was not correct.
was the original number. It wasn't the updated number. They didn't have the high cost special education.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so I asked Ken to put it on our agenda first so that we could get updated before it went back to the town council for
And so this is what we've met with
clarification.
Mr. Mollis and Mrs. Bridgham. We're all on the same page, and it's all getting fixed that we all have the correct numbers.
Okay. So the numbers that we were presented in August.
It's a difference of $3 was typo.
Okay. So
And that's I emailed you back when I
yep,
saw it.
yeah. So that nothing has changed as far as the direct impact on our operating budget from what we talked about in August.
Reviewed with you in August,
Okay.
these are all the same numbers.
Okay, perfect.
This is literally an update that we knew, but is officially, and the town is aware of it as well, but it's officially going to the town
And
council.
getting
just
approved by
for-
everyone,
Yeah,
so we all
I
have
think the
correct stated
confusion
numbers.
was what was on
Exactly.
the town council's agenda was different from what we had been presented in August, but now that you're saying they're changing it
Right.
again, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So when we talked back in August, we talked about having an updated budget provided with the allocations done.
And Leslie's working on that. I know
Okay.
there was a request. We're also in the middle of an audit, so that needs to take preference. So she's getting that audit done, and then for our next meeting, we can provide
Okay,
the budget update.
okay. Yeah, because that'll be helpful as we start to look at the budget for next
Yes.
year to have that
Mhm.
updated. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions regarding the state aid? Wait, so you'll get, that's a whole journey. We'll have to- Okay, moving on to the next item, can I get a motion to approve the student services contracts for the name changes?
I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Ken, you want to just give a quick synopsis for those?
Yeah,
who
so
may-
basically what we're doing with the change in our organizational chart, I also had a request of changing the department from people personnel to student services. And with that change, we also had to change the contracts to make sure the titles are correct for the members of that department. So within the contracts, director of student services, assistant director of student services, but also who the assistant reports to and who our special education coordinator reports to. Those titles all had to get changed in those 3 contracts.
What are the 3 contracts, just to clarify?
Oh, it's listed on here twice.
Yeah.
But it's actually, the other one is the special education coordinator.
Okay, so it's just a typo.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there are 3 different contracts. The
Yeah.
Director of Student Services,
Yeah.
Assistant Director,
Yeah.
and then the special education.
Okay,
coordinator.
yeah, it's just
Yeah,
not
it's
right.
just not right
Yeah,
there.
got it. Okay, and there's no other changes to the contract, just to
No other
confirm?
changes.
Any further discussion on this?
So I wonder, since the one that, so it was correct in the backup, but it's not correct on the agenda, so can we approve the special education one tonight, or no? I don't think we can.
I would say you got to hold off on the
Yeah.
special
Yeah, we'll
education
wait,
coordinator.
we'll wait for that one. Okay, so can you unmotion your motion and then make a new motion?
I will unmotion
That's
my
not what
motion.
we're
I withdraw my motion
She do it.
and make a motion to amend the contracts for the Director of Student Services and the Assistant Director of Student Services.
Second.
Any further discussion? I think just for me, just making sure, I think we had talked about this previously, just making sure that like it's, for a little bit, like for the transition, just making sure people know that it's the same thing. Like so that it's the same positions, like, you know, like formerly known as, or formerly was, or previously named, etc. And then Jen for the policy subcommittee, just going through perhaps ones that might reference those positions, etc. Like, we don't have to do a full thing, but like there might be some that we might want to look at to just do that quick change, just to make it consistent for folks.
Yeah, like I know for the restraint one, we made sure, because we were in the process
Yeah.
of having that one be, and that one's heavily loaded with.
Yeah,
with that
yeah, but there
type
might
of-
be some
yeah,
others that we
I'll
might want to
look
just
at
take a
the
quick
rest of
glance at, and maybe we could do like a umbrella change kind of
Yep.
motion at a future meeting. Okay, anything else on this one? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the question for those 2 contracts, and then we'll see the next one at the future meeting, just because of the typo. So, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and then next item, can I get a motion to discuss?
Make a motion to discuss.
Okay. I'll turn this one over to you, Jim. I believe it was your request.
All right, this addresses a question that I've had, as people know, for some time about meetings running over time. And, you know, I'm not going to imply any type of nefarious motive. There isn't. I know people get excited, they're enthusiastic, and we get into the weeds sometimes in this committee, but I think we do need to address overtime meetings when they run long into the evening. And I'll tell you some reasons why, but just to give you an indicator real quick, just going back, let me name some meetings. November 16th, 4 hours, 57 minutes. December 5, 4 hours, 43. January 25th, 5 hours, 43 minutes long meeting. February 20, 5 hours, 40 minutes. February 26, 6 hours, 22 minutes. March 5, 5 hours, 8 minutes. June 4, 5 hours and change. June 18, 5 hours and 51 minutes. August 1st, 8 hours. That was our winner. August 20th, 4 hours and 39 minutes. September 12th, 5 hours, 23. So we're going over in time, and to compare it to other districts, I mean, are we an outlier, or is this what all school committees do, including executive session in these times? Our neighbor to the south, South Kingstown, 9:24, just looked at the most recent meetings, 9:24, 2 hours and 30 minutes, 9:10, 3 hours, 54 minutes, excuse me, 8:27, 2 hours and 8 minutes, 8:13, 2 hours and 48 minutes, 7:23, 2 hours and 6. Well, you might say, hey, maybe South Kingstown is doing something really, really different. But East Greenwich, this does not include executive session. They actually do it on a different day, which actually could be something we could look at. 9:17, an hour and 18 minutes. 9:3, 1 hour and 8 minutes. 8:6, 47 minutes. 7:16, 1 hour and 19 minutes. How about Narragansett? This again does not include executive session in this time. 9:18, 1 hour and 45 minutes. 8:21, 40 minutes. 6:12, 1 hour. 5:15, 1 hour. 4:24, 2 hours. And I might add too, I asked around about previous school committees here, and they basically said they never really broke through, very rarely broke through the 10 o'clock curfew that they established in our rules, which is in there. So, and executive sessions go on long too, I mean, to be honest with you. So the impact is, I think the public is waiting and waiting for issues and items, and I think it's not fair to them to make them wait. Even if they watch it live, they're staying late into the night to try to see an issue that's happening. And if they want to look at the recording, they need something chappering, or they have to keep watching it to find out where it is in our agenda that they can hear the item. So it's not fair to them. It's also inconsiderate to our administrators, our staff, and anybody that has to come in. Even our students have to stay up late. You guys haven't seen this quite yet, but we shouldn't do that. It's not fair to them. And then, frankly, it breeds suspicion, like what's going on late at night. I used to work in the General Assembly, as you guys know, and people say, oh, you're up all night with those sessions. What's going on? We don't need that, because nothing's going on. It also tests our judgment. Like that one meeting, I remember I had jet lag at that meeting on August 1st, and it went on for like 8 hours. And for me, when we ended around 1 o'clock, it was like 7 in the morning, and it really tests all of our judgment, not just mine because I had jet lag. So I think we can do better. I know we've done it. In fact, we've actually done it. Tonight's meeting is a good example that we can actually be more efficient, more productive, more focused in a smaller amount of time if we have a set deadline to keep. To do that, I am offering an amendment. Hopefully we can consider it at the next meeting that would require, instead of a simple majority, which I think is kind of easy to do, be unanimous consent to do it. Now, does that mean it will happen a lot? No, it'd be rare, but I think you can get 5 people to agree that, hey, we only have one more item on the agenda, let's get unanimous consent just to finish that. I mean, I think things like that would be definitely possible, but right now, we waive the time, the adjournment time, and there's no definite ending time. In fact, I think the rules actually ask us to set a new time, and we haven't done that when we've done this. The other issue is public comment period. I'm offering an amendment to provide a definite public comment section that will begin no later than 7:30. And I know what happens. We get into an executive session, and it's some issue that it's a serious issue. I mean, things come up in executive session. That's why they're executive session, they're confidential. But we shouldn't let people wait because they've got families, they've got jobs, kids at home, maybe somebody watching the kids, things that they need to do too. And I think it's really just a courtesy to them to let them speak. We're going to let them speak. We shouldn't make them wait longer. So I would say that this rule would be, if this policy, if we change it, would say public comment section would begin no later than 7:30. We can adjourn what we're doing for the moment, come back to it if we need to later on. Allow people to speak, then they can go home and go about their business. So I'm hoping that, next meeting, I've already requested this, that it be placed on the agenda for our consideration, and I would just hope we could do that. I think we could just do things better, that's all I'm saying, and I submit that for your consideration. Thank you.
It was 23 left. I was going to make a time joke. It was
okay.
about efficiency.
You should have seen my original one. It was one.
I can imagine.
I try to trim.
Okay, further discussion on this?
I actually like the idea of having an executive session on a separate day. This way, every time our meetings start late, they start late because executive session has run over, and then at the end of the meeting, we have to reconvene executive session. Maybe having it on a separate day where it does not interfere with the meeting of the minutes is going to be more congenial to the public, or the parents who are coming, or people watching on the video, because they don't know anything that goes on in an executive session anyway, so it doesn't matter that we do it that day, other than for our own convenience. I mean, I get it, it's another day to meet, it's another meeting.
I'd just like to add, I think adding more meetings is going to be really challenging. We already had a very difficult time. Sorry, I don't need to laugh. I'm just Jules and I have our own issues with ideas. Is I would strongly recommend don't do that. We have a lot of advisory committees. We also have a lot of other responsibilities as well as family, and we need to be able to balance our job to do this job effectively for everyone. We spend a lot of time in meetings for a lot of different things. Adding on another meeting, I will tell you, will not be possible for us. And I don't want to put it as that,
Right, no,
but I would not recommend that.
Saying,
I strongly recommend that we look at our timing.
Could we maybe start executive session earlier?
We could.
Instead of starting at 6?
If people are available.
Maybe start,
right? So that's something that could happen.
I mean, some of us are here as early as 5:30 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, maybe starting it earlier will offset that pushing back, because it's really not fair. You know, when a parent or whatever, I mean, they too have other lives.
Yeah,
And-
so do we.
It's not just executive session that's pushing the meetings on, it's both regular session, open session.
Right, I think you're just throwing out
We
there a
gotta
way
look
to
at
kind
that
of
too.
separate
But
it.
how it impacts public comment, yes.
Yeah. And my other kind of thought on this, I don't think there's anything that's set of how the agenda has to be written, and a recommendation is to move public comment up, so that way public comment happens before presentations.
I see, but a lot of times we hear that people have comments on the presentation, so I don't think having them before the presentation is, and that's why, like, I understand what you're saying about public comment, but my concern with capping it at 7:30 is, like, tonight the presentations were pretty quick, but we've had some nights where we have multiple presentations, which also contributes to the length of the meeting, but, and so if we're only through half of a presentation, what are we gonna do? Say, oh, you gotta stop talking at 7:30? Like, so I think we have public comment, as it typically is the very first thing after the
It's right after
the presentations, right? And I think that's probably as early in the meeting.
But if you have a long executive session, then that just pushes that out to
Yeah.
like 8 o'clock, 8:30 at worst or something.
And I think, you know, for the most part, I think, you know, executive session, when it runs over because the issues are important, and maybe discussing like 5:30 is a conversation, but this ties into all the other requested amendments for this particular policy, and I think the best thing to do is to send the whole policy back to the Policy Advisory Committee to hash out these in conjunction
Take
with
these
the
into
other.
consideration.
I disagree with that, because
considerations.
unfortunately, the next policy meeting is October 28th.
No, it's not.
Isn't
No.
it? When is it?
It's Monday.
It's Monday.
Yeah, another one did get.
And then how many items? Yeah, I don't want to go to committee. I've already asked as a member of the school committee to place it on for consideration on our next calendar, which is the next meeting that we have on the 22nd.
Yeah, I don't think, my opinion is that they can't be considered independently of each other, because we have other input that's come from citizens where they're asking us to review
Yeah,
this policy.
that's fine perhaps on the public comment section, but on just having some type of hard deadline to finish, we've had a curfew, if you want to call it that, at 10 to 10:30.
The committee also has a choice to not extend it. If
Right,
three
by
people on the
majority,
committee
but-
doesn't want to extend, you don't have the votes, we end at that exact moment.
That's exactly right, but
Which is why
majority
it
vote
exists.
has happened
Yeah.
every time that it's been asked.
But
So
that's
that
the
tells
committee's
me-
choice to not do it.
I agree.
I'm a let's just finish it, like I feel like the work that we're
So
doing
you're in
is
favor of
important.
longer meetings?
No,
Because that's
I'm
the
not.
net effect, Madam Chair.
Jim,
It
do
is.
not talk over me. That is very
I'm
rude.
talking with you.
No.
I
Listen,
am. You're
please.
imagining that. Go ahead.
Let me finish.
Yeah, please.
I personally, if we're almost done with something, the administration needs us to finish it. I usually am in favor of extending the meetings if need be. I do not, but like the committee doesn't have to choose that choice, is what I'm saying. That we are given that choice, and
the
if the
problem
majority
is-
votes on it,
The problem is long agendas.
Are you gonna let me
and
finish,
talk.
Jim?
I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
most
you
certainly
paused.
wasn't. Still words
Please
coming out of my
continue.
mouth.
Continue.
I just think that I get concerned when we're putting specific times into policies. To Jen's point, like to say 7:30, okay, if a meeting starts at 5, like we change it, and that's not the cadence of that. I would be very concerned about that very specific time. And I'd also be very concerned about not being having one person on a committee be able to say, no, we're not extending this meeting, especially if the administration needs us to finish the business that we need
We
to
should
finish.
end.
Because that's what unanimous would be. So I do have concerns about both of those. But I also agree with Jen that we have a current policy on how we review policies. And although your suggestions have merit, like it should go through the same process that all of our other policy review goes through, which is these go to the policy subcommittee. We're already looking at this policy BE, and then they all can come back up for consideration.
I don't see that happening. I don't even sit on that committee, as you know.
Yep.
And now it's my turn to speak. And we have had agenda that have been so jam-packed with issues and agendas on agendas. And it takes a long time to get through there. I have voted against extending meetings. Sometimes it's not administration that wants to continue the business. It's the chairwoman that wants to extend it. We've had meetings, I could read them all, even longer than that. I told you that this is totally out of character with our neighboring school committees that have much shorter meetings. Why can't we have it? With the previous school committees, before you were the chair of this, they finished and rarely ever went over 10 o'clock. When you wanted to go home one night, I remember that we were able to get out on time. Today's another example of that. I don't want to deep six and bury it in committee and subcommittee, because I've already asked as a member. Within the rules, I'm entitled to ask and acquiesce to my request to put it within 12 days on the next calendar. That's what I'm saying. If you want to try to change that, you're welcome to do that. I will challenge it, because what I don't want to see this has happen is that it gets basically debated to death in committee until after the election. And once the election goes, then there's no pressure to change this. This is an endemic problem to this committee. It's one of the problems I've had with it since the start. And if you just look at the times, it is totally out of whack. 3 hours and 57 minutes, September 19, October 3, 4 hours and 39 minutes, 4 hours and 57 minutes, 4 hours and 43 minutes. Oh, here's one for an hour 39, great. 5:43. I can go down the list of every meeting that we've had, and they're going way over time. That's not fair to the staff, it's not fair to the students, it's not fair to the public.
Yep.
But you say it is fair because you don't want us. We get a majority vote every time. When was the one time that has happened that we didn't get a majority vote? It's too easy when you have two people that always work and see eye to eye, maybe a third that joins you. I think we need to slow that down.
Just for clarification, I do not always vote the same way as the rest of the committee.
Oh, on that one you absolutely do, Madam Chair.
I vote on my own. I get to choose my own.
No, but I absolutely, I didn't say that was you. You're the two that work together, and
Jen and I
then
do not always
goes
vote.
with. On that vote, check the record.
Well, I would say that 5 of us work together, because it's all been unanimous.
No, it has not. I voted against. I voted against and I've
You've
abstained.
abstained.
No, and I
Well-
voted against too. Check the record.
You definitely have,
But thank you that she didn't believe you.
okay, Jim, I totally understand that this is important to you. I don't disagree.
It's important
that
to
it
the
needs
public.
be
It's not
looked
to me.
at.
I'm leaving this committee soon. It's not important to me, Madam Chair. It's important to them and everybody else.
It's important to me as well. I would prefer not to be here late either. I think there's
No,
a
but
variety
you're
of
part of the
reasons.
architect of the reason why, because
Can
you
you let me
put, you
finish,
jam-packed the agenda.
I make the agenda with Dr. Duba.
Right, and then you bulldoze him to do what you want to do. That's what I see.
I
Call it how
respectfully
I see it.
disagree. I feel like Ken and I work together to put together the agendas.
Can I make one comment about the agenda?
Too long.
And I respectfully have to say this. We get a lot of requests once we sit and do that. A lot of requests come through up until the very last minute of being posted. The agendas are long, and I
Yeah.
think we need to work
Yes.
on that together as a committee.
I don't
And I think we
disagree.
need to respect the timeline of when the agenda items are put in, so we administration can do our
Yep.
job of making
I
sure.
would
that
happily
they-
follow the rules that are stated in the policy as far as the agendas go, but I also would say we would want to follow the other ones as well, as far as when we're supposed to get attachments, when
and
we're
I
supposed to
agree
do
with you
different things.
100%.
Like, there's a lot of cleaning up. I also think that
agree
there's
with you
been
100% on that.
a lot of transition in the past 2 years with the different administrations and a lot of catch up from past committees not looking at policies since 2012, not doing different things that we are trying to get this district in more compliance with, and a lot of really tough and difficult things. And so I do not enjoy the long meetings. I would prefer to be home with my children as well. I would prefer us to end at 10. I also think that there are things that need to be discussed and that we are working to try to get this district back on track, which is our goal. And so I don't agree with you fundamentally, Jim. I just don't understand. I personally feel that this should go through the same process that we go through for all of our things, that we're the policy committee, which would look at it and et cetera. I think the policy chair hears your concern about timing, and we could try to prioritize it. I believe it's on the next agenda.
I've already made the request. If you don't want to follow the policy rules, then so be it. East Greenwich has their challenges, South Kingstown has their challenges, Narragansett has their challenges, even Warwick has their challenges, but yet they seemingly get done with their committees in a fraction of the time that we do. There are some endemic reasons, probably for why we go on, enthusiasm being one, I'm sure. But I've requested this be on there. If you want to follow the policy, it should be on the agenda of next meeting. I rarely ever ask for anything to be placed on the agenda, and I don't have a lot of time left. This isn't for me. This isn't, I don't know how many meetings I will come to, or let alone watch on a recording, but we easily pass a change to the ending time. In fact, we've actually been violating the policy because we're supposed to set a new time. Doing my research, that we never done. We basically open the floodgate and we go indefinitely until we are done till the cows come home. Marathon meetings are not what's in the best interest of the public, particularly when they go late into the evening. Our judgment's impaired. People have to get up early in the morning, and other people have to, bear with us, but we can accomplish the same amount of work more efficiently in less time, and we've done it. We've proved we can do it. But if you want to keep the meetings going long, then
You're
don't
not
put
putting-
this on the
You're putting words
agenda.
in my mouth. I don't want to keep the meetings going long. I would much prefer us to end before 10.
Then make it
The
unanimous consent.
committee has a choice. If they wanted to end it at 10 on the dot, they could choose that choice even without a unanimous consent right now. If 3 members of this committee said, nope, it's 10 o'clock, the stuff that we have left is not worth it, it can be on the next agenda,
Okay.
we could end the meeting. That is the
All right.
current rule. So
Then-
I'm not fighting against the
Well,
fact
then the voters should
that-
ask the candidates that are running, where do you stand? Do you want to continue to see a simple majority that
This
is
is
always
an
going to
You're
trump?
making
This
this
is an election
election,
issue.
it's not an election
It
issue.
is an election
No,
issue
it
that
is
I'm
not.
hearing.
You're
It's a
making an
separate
election
issue.
issue.
I'm not making it one.
You just
Well,
said
just
ask the
did.
candidates where they stand.
Yeah, but they should,
And
because they
I
have to
welcome
know.
any
Well,
questions
anybody
about
wants
Then you
anything.
should.
But here
Ask
at this
the answer.
meeting,
Hold
what
on
we're
one second,
discussing
please.
is this particular policy.
Yeah, I think
and I agree with you.
it's
that the meetings
irresponsible.
are long. Nobody, I think, sitting at this table would be like, oh, hell yeah, I want to stay there for another 2 hours. Like,
Right.
that's not
That's
the point.
not.
I think it's a multifaceted thing. It starts with the agendas. The agendas are too full. Why that is, we can debate back and forth. But I think with a pared down agenda, that keeps it down a little bit more. But I think any vote of a committee that requires a unanimous vote is, especially for something like this, it's.
Then accede to my request under the rules that I am permitted to do, to put it on for consideration next meeting, and we'll just have the fortitude, you can vote
Trying to
against it.
figure out if we're
You
even
can vote
able
against it.
to.
That's all, I'll vote for it.
Like, my thing is, there's other things, like, last week, like, when the citizens raised the issues, I was like, yeah, that's worthy of consideration. I put them on the agenda. Unfortunately, we have 18,000 policies on the policy agenda, but it's on the agenda for this Monday to be discussed, because I do think it's important, and I do think the issues that were raised last week by the citizens, and both in person and in email, and I think what you're raising is important too, but I don't think that we can look at it independent of the other ones. And I think we have a process for policies, and that is they go through the policy
You
committee.
easily can do that. I have made laws for over 20 years. This is policy, it can be done simply as in one sentence. If you don't want to do it, that's another question, I don't know. But in subcommittee, there are about 12 items on there, 12, I think about 12, am I correct? And that could take a long time, just even to get to those. There's not even enough discipline to keep only 3 items, say, at a time on a subcommittee agenda like on policy. That's one of the reasons I don't want to go there. And the other one is, I can't even enter the room because of OMA, Open Meetings Act. I want to be involved in this discussion, vote it up or down, that's what you're entitled to do as a member, but I want it on the next calendar so we can vote on it. And if you want to vote no, you're free to do so, but I think it's the only way to discipline us to have a deadline that's more firm than just a simple majority vote that we cut through like a hot knife through butter.
So regardless of what you're asking, it's on the policy agenda for the next meeting, so we're going to discuss it that day anyway. So
That's fine.
whether this
Discuss
ends
it.
up on the agenda at the next meeting because you've asked for it, or whether it comes through from the policy committee, I don't know. But the implication that it would be buried until after the election is insulting, because if that was the case, I wouldn't have put it on the agenda for the last meeting.
Well, buried is about 12 items on there. That could probably take a long time. 12 different whole policies,
Ken and I
yes.
can both speak to that. We have been holding the policies that we
That's a lot.
deemed are critical, and we
Yeah.
added that one
Yeah.
specifically because it was important. We have
Right,
not
and that's why I added your issue to my agenda.
But we have not added any policies since we've started looking at those. So this actually got added to an agenda that was supposed to be frozen.
Then perhaps we can have 2 issues to consider at the next meeting. That would be fair for you to do that and fair for me to do that. We're just operating by the rules. Rules should be followed.
Any further discussion on this topic? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Where are we? Item E, can I get a motion?
Make a motion to discuss?
Second.
Dr. Duba?
I can speak to that if you want, Ken.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong.
That's the dugout for the girls.
Yeah, the dugout. So, I'll just go first, and then if you have something to add. So this has been requested to be on the agenda. Since we put it on the agenda, we received an update from the coach. Originally, there was going to be a donation provided for the dugouts to be built. Unfortunately, that donation is no longer available. The coach knows that. He has been in conversations with Mr. Murphy He's going to meet with them to discuss, prioritize what are the things that you are asking for. We're going to have to look into fundraising and possible budget requests if there is anything more that we're going to do with the softball field. We do have the layout of the dugouts. We have, I can just share what has been done so far. So this back here, this board here shows the design. So they have gone as far as working with contractor to put together the design for this, for the dugouts. But at this point, the funding source is not available anymore. So we will work with softball coach and other members. We can prioritize what they are looking for, and we can look at other ways of being able to possibly fund their requests.
Who paid for the designs? The donor?
It was all donated.
Got it.
Yeah, they had people that were volunteering of doing this work prior, that provided it to them, and then they shared it with us.
So when you say that just the financial part is no longer, like the ground preparation will still be done by Mumford and...
So the softball field, the field's done, right? So the field is done. Being able to put in the dugouts, the materials were going to be donated to us. We also have people that are donating their time as a contractor. They had someone design that. Someone that's also a contractor to oversee the work and volunteers doing the work. What we don't have anymore is the funding source.
So the funding would be that material total?
Yes.
So it would be the 12,000?
Yes.
And everything else as far as, like, we get the materials?
My understanding, the
Before
other
volunteer build
people
it?
that are willing to oversee and do the work are still willing to do that.
Okay, the concrete pour, that is still,
That's my understanding.
they're gonna still do all that?
Arnold Lumber is fully donated.
No, that was part of the
So the math isn't mathing for me, sorry. So it's hard to tell by the handwritten notes.
So the material, right? So the lumber and the
I just can't figure out how we're getting to 12
materials
grand. That's the math is not.
and the
It's those three things that he
concrete,
at the bottom.
right? So you have lumber,
Yeah.
materials, and concrete. That totals the 12,522. That was going to be a donation. We don't have that anymore.
So I have a couple questions. Because of the cost of this, does it have to go out to bid?
So if we are going to do that, you would have to. If we're doing it ourselves,
Right. Like if we're
if
paying
it's all
for it,
one piece,
correct?
you would have to go to bid because it's over.
Over $9,000. Okay, so that's my first question. My second question is, so we were like really, really clear about when we were approving the field that like that money was all that we were going to be asked for, right? Like, and with the understanding that any other additions to the field would have to come from donations. So I guess that's part of that. Has Boosters been asked to support this?
I don't know. I can find that out. I'm
Okay,
not sure if they
so I
are or
think
not.
definitely they should be asked. The other thing is, looking at the last update that we got on the fund balance, there had appeared to be some money that had been encumbered for the field that hadn't been spent. And so if that's the case, just me personally, I would be fine with allocating that money
Right,
towards
if there
it
is some
because
money.
it was
I'm not sure if we.
there was like
had anything.
$8,800.
It could have been that. I wonder if.
I'll look into that.
Things
So
had
look,
gone
if there
through
was
look at
yet.
the fund balance
Yeah.
for that. And then my second thing was,
Because I thought that entire 100,000 was spent.
it's showing, the last fund balance that we
It
got.
doesn't say it has been,
It
but
was in there,
Okay.
yeah. And then my other question, to piggyback on that, would be when we had been discussing the $100,000 for the field, we had talked about the possibility of having a $10,000 contingency on that, and that $10,000 was gonna come out of the gate receipts, the enterprise fund. And so if that was not used, like, we'd already authorized up to $10,000 in that amount.
Okay.
So between those two, like, that would be like
When
$18,000.
was that approved for the gate? Do you remember?
That
was
was
that
back in December of
23.
December 23.
Okay.
So we had approved that funding source. So I would say if that hasn't been tapped into, and the $8,800 that shows encumbered for the field hasn't been tapped into.
And it was up to 10,000.
Yeah, that's about
through
$18,000
receipts.
right there.
I would just check that,
Yeah,
check that got approved and that it wasn't spent as part of the other project.
The field was completed in May, so unless there was, I mean, we got the fund balance in May, so like I said, as of the last fund balance that we got, it
Oh, no, I
should
didn't
be-
mean that, I meant the other thing, the, approval of the gate receipt part.
Right,
That part I
right.
would double check, because
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I remember discussing it, but I can't
We
remember.
did approve it, like we
Yeah.
said, we gave the okay,
Alright.
yeah. So I guess the question would be, like, if the total cost of the field as we have right now did not exceed $110,000, that whatever's left out of that is available, as far as I'm concerned.
I would definitely also just check with the district attorneys on this, because
Yeah, I feel like the bid, and also
It's-
these quotes are from February, so
Yeah, they're
my question
expired.
would be like,
Yeah.
are they still valid?
But also it's concerning because
this
you're
was
not-
what they
Right.
received prior and what they were
Yep.
going to
Yeah.
use. We're going to have to.
Yeah, but there's like, now that these numbers are out there, it makes for an unfair competitive bidding process, because other companies know what these companies would have bid for the project, so I would definitely check with, Mr. Hennessy on this one.
Mm-hmm.
To my knowledge, they weren't bidding as much as they were donating their services and also like parts and materials.
Right. Yeah.
I'm
they
just saying,
weren't
like, for
bids
example,
from-
Arnold
from
Lumber is
this.
at a disadvantage now if we do have to go out to bid, because now other companies know what they might put forward.
Yeah. I just think it's a great project, and hopefully we can get this together for the ladies out there at the dugouts.
Right, so Ken, it sounds like you have more, you're gonna look into it more.
Yeah, we are. I mean, things changed since we put it on the agenda, so that's why I kind of changed what I was going to, as far as we were moving forward tonight. But we're going to continue working with them on this, and I'm going to check on the amounts, looking at the fund balance now, to see what that's showing, and if it is something that's left over, then we do have two sources that we can look at.
And when vendors donate like this, they're
We have
still
to
required to
approve
have the liability insurance and all of that stuff.
Yes.
The
We have to approve it
standard-
as well.
Yeah, we would
Yeah.
have to approve it in the standard stuff.
The gifts. Hey, anything else on this one?
That is all.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, next item?
I'll make a motion to discuss approval of religious and cultural observance days for policy IE.
Second.
So back in August, the district adopted a policy around scheduling district events, which stated that the North Kingstown School Department is committed to creating an inclusive and respectful environment for all students and their parents and guardians. We strive to avoid scheduling major events on significant religious or cultural holidays and offer events at various times to accommodate different schedules. We noted at the time that we approved the policy that we would need to later approve the list of religious and cultural observance days referenced in the policy. And that policy says that when scheduling events is within the district's control, every attempt should be made to avoid scheduling things like district-wide special events, recruiting and hiring events, professional development activities, school committee meetings, tests, quizzes, field trips, pictures, school-sponsored events like prom, auditions, things like that. That's not a complete list, I'm just summarizing it. And so what I have before people to review tonight is a draft of days. And I have to say, like, this was challenging because to try to determine, like, you know, what days to put and what days not to put, and not to have it so that there is like a conflict for every single day for like administrators and teachers to schedule things, while also being mindful of people's you know, faith and observation was a little challenging. So I found a couple references that I put in the bottom of the document, kind of where I pulled this from. And this is the whole list, right? And then I think we discuss, like, because I certainly don't want to be the one to say my observation is more important than yours, right? But so what I tried to do was note the holidays.
Do you have a question, Jen?
I don't know, do I?
I don't know, you were talking,
Do I?
so
I don't know,
I was trying
I'm
to
talking
listen.
to my colleague, I'm sorry. if
Yeah, I
it
was just trying
offends
to
you.
listen to Jen.
No,
as
you're
she
just trying to
presented.
boss people around, because that's your MO.
well,
That's what you like, Jen, you're my
I like leadery, but
No,
it's
no,
okay.
no, you're a pretty bossy person. I'm sorry, Jen, go ahead, please. I was just talking to my colleague about this particular item, if you need to know.
Yep, I was just asking if you had a question because you were.
No, that's
it
all right.
sounded like you did.
That's all right,
Jen,
you
do you
sound
want
like
to
you're trying
continue?
to silence me.
So I just listed on here where the holidays have been noted as being work restricted by those particular religions. It's difficult because there's no demographic information available for North Kingstown in terms of like what faith communities we have here. There are information for Rhode Island as a whole, but those don't necessarily translate. So, you know, I'm putting this out here for discussion because, like I said, I recognize that we can't say you can't schedule anything on every single day, but I do think that we need to, even if we're going to say, like, you're not going to schedule it, at least put it out there so people are aware of it, right?
So, when we reviewed this policy, and I'm not trying to cut you off. Or
No,
anything.
that's fine.
When we reviewed this policy in August, because I was going through this today, and I was like, when was this policy from?
Yeah.
And this is my own, I didn't catch this, and we were doing a lot and improving this. Going back and reading the language today about this, I'm concerned that this policy that we approved in the summer is going to complicate how we schedule events in our district. I want to be respectful of our community, but the Rhode Island Department of Education already issued a calendar with the observed holidays that schools have to observe. And I think as a school department, that's what we should be following, is what the state of Rhode Island, through the Department of Education, issued for our calendar. I think we are complicating the situation, and I respect what you're doing. You put a lot of time and effort into this, but looking at this today.
Oh, I'm not proposing this whole
Okay.
list, and that's
Did you
my
hear what she
point.
said?
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I just,
But
I just want to make it really
did-
clear that Jen is not proposing this,
Yeah.
that she is, you were part of the policy conversations and you were part of the school committee conversations. We saw it 4 or 5 times. We approved it. The next step is figuring out what the list is, and Jen is putting forward a long list because she doesn't want to independently edit this list. And so I think your feedback's
Which
valid,
needs to
Ken,
be
but-
edited.
and I think
like,
what I'm saying
yeah.
is, when we wrote this, I did not think we were putting a policy in place that was going to complicate how we schedule events in the district. We want a policy that's going to respect our community members and making sure that we're not scheduling something on an observed day. And I believe the Department of Education has already done that for us and providing to us what those holidays are that we should be making sure that we're putting on our school calendar.
So you're saying that like on our
Just kinda-
school calendar where it lists a day but we don't have off, right? Like so Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, right? Those in your mind are the only, and I'm not challenging you, are those in your mind are the only observed days that we should be saying, no, you can't schedule a meeting?
I'm saying based on what the Department of Education that oversees the public schools and putting a calendar together, they have already issued what those observed holidays should be.
So like you would be fine with us scheduling an evening meeting on Ash Wednesday?
But that is, I believe,
It's not.
Not.
well, actually, and going back and looking at that, well, I'm not going to get into religion though, but it's not a
That's not a
observance.
holy day of obligation.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So
But
it's
I
not.
did include the holy days of obligation in here, and that's my point. Like, so we have made a conscious effort over the past 2 years to not schedule things, meetings, et cetera, on days like that. And I don't think that this whole list is realistic, and that's why I brought it forward so that we could discuss. But I don't want to be the one to say, there's only 2 families in our whole district who are Hindu, so we're not going to observe those holidays, right?
Well, and also
I
you
guess
don't want to
how
take it
do
from the
we make-
privilege of what Ken just did, where he got to think, oh, Ash Wednesday isn't X. Like,
Right.
we don't know
We don't-
that.
right.
for
And if
all
someone
of this
doesn't want to
list.
be there,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? Like I'll just put myself, like I wouldn't be able to attend that
Yeah.
because
Right.
I have, observance of
But if it's
So-
your child's thing, then that puts you in the position of having to choose between your faith and your children, and
It
I think that's
does.
what we're trying to
It
avoid.
does, but I think now, if we're looking to add more than what the Department of Education has already put out for districts to have, how are we making that decision? And making sure that we're not leaving a certain group out or prioritizing over another group. I think that's where, I think, how are we?
Well, and I
going to
think
do
what's
this?
interesting about the ride list is they have prioritized. They've only picked a couple, and so I think that is the challenge too for RIDE, is to be more inclusive in what they're thinking about, because I don't know what demographics or what kind of basis they did to make those decisions, but they clearly have only picked a couple. So that is interesting too. I don't disagree with you, but that's
Yes,
something.
I think there's a happy medium between the ride calendar and this list. And like I said, I gave the full list here, and actually I edited this list down a little bit, truth be told, because otherwise, like, it was super long. But I think that it's important for us to say, like, we recognize that even though the school isn't closed, that these are days where we as a district are committing that we're not going to schedule something on these days. And I don't think that rides list is complete enough for that. I think that there are days that ride doesn't include where we should not be scheduling. And so I'd like us to review this, because and if everybody comes back and says, nope, we're just gonna do the ride dates, then we need to go back and revise that policy, because that policy specifically says that we are establishing a list of days. And I will say that in doing I now know more about every religion than I ever wanted to know, but a lot of schools do have lists like these, so it's not atypical.
In Rhode Island or
Out of state, yeah.
And I wonder why no one else in Rhode Island does, and are they just following the calendar that the Department of Education has issued for us to?
They may, but I don't think that that's necessarily, like Erin said, RIDE picked, right? So how did RIDE pick? And, you know, like, I know for a
But
fact.
RIDE governs the public school districts.
It governs the school day, but it doesn't govern our decision as a district to schedule separate events.
I think there's gonna be a minefield of trying to do stuff for schools if we observe, I know you're saying not every one, but you're saying something between that, a hybrid between RIDE and this. I still think that's gonna be workable. Knowing RIDE for working alongside with them for 20 years up in the Senate, I know that they try to be inclusive, they're not trying to push people out, I think they're pretty open-minded. I think it would be my suggestion that we go forward with their calendar, and if there's something that is compelling to do, we could add maybe several more if we needed to. But otherwise, if you can't hold anything on these days, whether it's an SAT test or maybe it's an event or whatever it is, you're going to end up with a minefield of not being able to schedule things for various reasons, and it's going to really encumber the school functioning.
And I think one of the big issues too is about the students and their attendance. And if I were to call the principal and say, this is a holy day of observation, I'm keeping my son or daughter out, would they be given an excused absence or unexcused?
Yes, I think that's.
Yeah, we did that, yeah.
So why can't we, because this one says that it's unexcused.
I think one of the things that I always think about is a student shared with me once that they had a really hard time.
I'm sorry.
A really hard time with deciding about choosing between a mandatory football practice that would, if he missed it, would not allow him to play in a game, and observing his family's religious obligation. And so that I always come back to that when we have this conversation, because I know it's so hard to navigate this conversation, and we don't want to make it hard for the schools, but I always think about that student, like literally having to grapple with, hey, if I don't go, I want to be at football practice because we've got the big game, and if I don't go to practice, I can't play in the game, but I can't remember what the religion was, but I can't X, Y, Z. And so that's like, I always go back to that and thinking about what's best for students and how do we balance that, because I see all of the sides of it, but I also know that our school system is set up on a specific religion's calendar. That's why we have holidays on certain days. And then also that we have community members that are beyond the list of even what RIDE does. And so that's like, it's a really complicated one in my head, because I understand the logistical part of it, but I also think that we are prioritizing as a state and as a district currently, like some religions over others, and like that's tricky in this piece.
Yeah, but there must be a legal reason as to why the state is doing that. Because if the state wanted to approve all of these, you know,
and we could do more research into how RIDE made that decision. That could be a choice.
Yeah, you know, like the one thing that we're like, I know that there is I won't quantify a number, but there is a Baha'i population in North Kingstown, right? And they actually have a number of work-restricted days. So if we have students who observe that faith, like, because the other thing that I keep coming back to is it puts the student in the position of having to raise the subject of my faith, my practice, my beliefs, you know, require me to do this. And it puts the burden on the student. And the one thing that I hear often from students is like, they don't want to be othered, and they don't want to have that attention drawn to them. So if we can be accommodating in terms of, even if we said, like, okay, like, fine, we're not going to mandate it, but just we want the district to be aware that these are days that there may be, you know, an issue. So if you have a choice between scheduling something on November 4th or November 3rd, like, do it on the 4th, just to raise the awareness, if nothing else.
And
So-
that might be a happy medium of, like, you go with the ride list for, like, please do not schedule meetings and different things on these dates, and then you provide the list just so that teachers and folks can be aware and also, like, educate folks, because, like, they know they do ask, like, what is your family's whatnot, like, when you sign up for school, so then that could just kind of help educate timing and not say you can't do it, but just make an awareness piece of it, perhaps. So maybe, like, the top part be, like, the very specific ride ones, and then the bottom ones be aware of.
So we don't keep in our student information system this type of information on students.
Teachers most certainly ask, though.
But it's not all teachers ask, and it's not in our student information system, so that's not true.
What's not true?
That all teachers, you know what I mean, like, teachers may ask,
Let me
but that is
restate,
not
sorry.
that's
all
not
teachers my
something
children
that-
have asked.
Yeah.
So I'll just speak for myself. Like, I know it's not official, but
The
definitely
teachers
there's
have
some.
asked your religion?
Yeah. Holidays celebrated, things like that. So
Really? In a public school?
my children do go to public school, yeah. I think I could not write it in, but it's on, like, a information getting to know your student form. So, like, I think, so for example, like, if they put down that they are Hindu, then they would know, like, oh, okay, Susie's Hindu, you know, and then they could be aware of these dates, perhaps, in an easier way.
Yeah, I have a problem with the teacher asking what your religion is.
Yeah.
Oh, I do too.
A real
But,
big
Yeah, I'm
problem.
curious to see
Yeah.
those
A
forms.
real big problem.
But I think it's more like
we can
the purpose of the policy was to try to provide some guidance on when things should and shouldn't be scheduled, you know, and so maybe the medium is the ride days, but then we provide the rest as awareness. I just think providing information can be useful because people may want to do things but not even be aware of it. I just maybe putting this in front of them is
Well, it makes you aware that there's not just perhaps two or three
Right, yeah.
religions that people
Right.
observe in this town. You know, like, even just that is, I think,
yeah.
good education.
Well, I think if we stick to the ride holidays, we're legally okay. And then maybe provide the teachers with this to say, if you wanted to also consider, you know, based on the students that you're inviting, not to schedule it on the 2nd, but maybe on the 3rd, because there's no religious holiday for anybody on that day. If that's possible, do it. But it certainly would be the teacher's decision as to whether to do that. I wouldn't want this, like, you absolutely can't do it on those days, because then we're not gonna have any
No,
programs.
and that's not what the policy says. The policy says, you know, when possible, if it's within your control. But like one thing, like I would say, is as a school committee, we should not be scheduling school committee meetings on, like, obviously not all of these days, but if there are like work restricted days for certain religions, like we should do our best not to schedule public meetings on those days.
There's like 45 items here, that's like an entire quarter.
But then
I don't
again,
think that
if
she
it's-
said
if
just
it's-
the work restricted ones. Those,
If-
the whole list isn't work restricted.
But if the religion is a work-restricted one, and that's a violation of my religion, as Dr. Duva said, I have a decision to make as a member, one of 5. You know, do I get so strict that I now force my religious holidays on you, or do I simply say, Dr. Duva, I'm not coming to this meeting because it's a holy day of obligation for me, so I'm going to be excused from that meeting? The same as a parent would do. I don't think that we should.
You just lose your voice that day then, and your vote.
Correct.
Which is, but that, I think what Jen's trying to say is, like, to be an inclusive community, like, to try, but again, she's not, I don't think I'm hearing that you're doing the whole list. But I think, like, you know, if we schedule something on a day and you can't be there, like, that silences you in this meeting and in this conversation, you know, and so I think it's just trying to figure out what that balance is. I also was just looking on the ride list, and, or actually this is rides. So they have some dates marked as observance days, but then I was trying, did they define that on their calendar?
I think Ride's calendar is a little different from ours. Like our school calendar.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, do they say what that means for observance? Like, are they saying, like, they note it as an observance day, but then it doesn't have any definition of, like, what you're supposed to do with that observance day? That's what I was trying to find, of, like, how they define it, of, like, why they're putting it on their calendars and what they expect the districts to do.
Yeah, so I wanted to have this for discussion before it's December, and we realized that we wish we had done.
Because we have to set an extra calendar.
Right. So I am open to feedback.
So observance days are Yom Kippur, Good Friday.
So they just note, and what they have on there, they have the days that are no school days of the state, and then that's in orange, and then in blue are the observance days, and those have a little carrot next to them.
You mean green?
Blue. On here it's
Blue
blue.
on mine, yeah.
But,
What am I looking at? Oh, I'm looking at 23, 24. They were green last year.
Ken, did they check off like a variety of religious beliefs there?
you know, what they have listed on here for observance days, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur,
We do recognize
Friday.
major Islamic holidays.
in March, I'm going to say it wrong, I'm sorry, Eid al-Fitr.
That's Islamic.
And that's what's on the calendar for this year based on when it falls.
And Good Friday.
Good Friday, when it
Is it
on?
not?
I don't
It
see
was on the one the year before.
Yeah, so when Good Friday falls on a school
Wait, to
day.
my credit, I'm on their website.
So,
I'm just saying, I want you to verify that. I clicked on the calendar that I'm on Ride's website.
It's the wrong year.
It most certainly is. It's on 23, 24 on their main page.
So am I hearing that we just want to do
Yeah, no,
Ride
you search it, you
days?
find it.
What am
It's
I?
on their website. So. Yeah.
I'll make the motion that we recognize ride days and pending any other suggestions, we could do this on a suggestion model basis. I'll make that motion if somebody wants a second, just to move the issue along. The motion would be to recognize that we recognize rides, religious and cultural observation days, and then maybe we can put this out in an email some way as a suggestion if people want to work with that.
I'll second that.
I think that the suggestion piece of that is tricky because then you're putting the burden on the teachers and the building administrators to rank priority of what's most important on that list and not important on that list.
Leave it up to them. If a teacher's in the classroom and they have maybe 3 or 5 Muslim students, they could put the test on a Thursday or a Friday. Thursday's the holiday. Well, I'm going to put it on a Friday. So we'll leave it up to them to participate in observing and helping those students, if they know.
Except this also applies to administration in terms of scheduling district-wide events. So like you lose that, like I know I have 5 kids in my classroom, like at the district level, like so do those 5 kids matter less because we've scheduled the holiday?
No, but I think we had, I just heard of some variety of different holidays. I don't think we can maybe capture all of them, because I said, if we were, I think you conscientiously did capture all of them in your list. I know you're not saying for that, but how could you say one is more important than other
Right.
in terms of equity? Then you're looking at about 45 days where you can't schedule anything. That's a full quarter of a school year.
And again, I'm not advocating for this, but
which one is more important than the other? How
well,
do you rank them?
there's already been a determination that some are more important than others.
By right. That's
Yeah.
why I moved
Yeah.
that. That's why I made the
Yeah.
motion.
I mean, we also have to acknowledge that Ride's calendar, like on the orange days of no school, are aligned with one particular religion.
Right.
Like we have Christmas week off, we have Easter week off, we have so that's already like stacked as far as like where we're prioritizing people. So they're saying like the Christian holidays are no school holidays, the Jewish and Islamic holidays, and some of the Christian holidays are observance days, and then nobody else's even gets on the calendar. Like that is like that's, and I get it. Like, but I also think that other people get it and realize that there's a rank order in this conversation.
They didn't have Rosh Hashanah? Was that on the list of right? as an example.
It's an observed day.
It's an observed day.
Observed day.
We have class on it. We have school on
Right.
Rosh Hashanah.
In fact, even I think isn't the Christmas break called winter break now?
Yes.
So they don't even recognize it as a Christmas break. They just recognize it as a traditional period off where kids go sledding.
Just coincidentally
snowmen.
happens to be.
It has
always
been
around
because there's
Christmas.
cultural inertia, but that they remove the title basically means it's a vacation for everyone, no matter what your purpose is.
I don't know, I just kind of feel like I've been a state employee or was a state employee for a majority of the time that I worked, for at least 25, 28 years. The state put out, these are the holidays. So we all observed them. And if I wanted to take off Ash Wednesday and that wasn't on the holiday list, I apologize to the committee chair that I'm not gonna be there, but I'm prioritizing my religion over the meeting, and they said, okay, we'll catch you up next time. I've even worked at Catholic institutions where Good Friday was not a holiday, but Easter was. For a true Christian, Good Friday is one of our most holy sacrament days. So I think we're opening a can of worms. I think we're best off to just stay with the ride dates, share these other dates with people, and if a parent calls and says, look, this is a day of atonement for us, I'm not having my child come, okay, you're not gonna get an excuse them, enjoy your holiday.
So one of my questions on that one is, and I don't disagree with you, Debbie, is what do we do with the observance days? So like, obviously no school, right? But then there's a list of observance days. Does that mean we don't do anything on those days? RIDE doesn't tell us what to do with that. So what would our opinion be as a committee?
Well, no penalization and allowing the kids to make up the work.
Well, that's not what we're talking about, though. The conversation that we're talking about in the policy is like the things that Jen listed. Like there was part of it was the school piece, but that is covered. It's more of the meetings after school.
Those are left up to the individual districts. That's where they have an observance days, and when they send the calendar out, they tell us. And anytime,
so that's what I'm at.
They say it's up to the individual districts. If you are as a district, if choosing, your school committee chooses to say it's a no school day, or it's an observance day, what does that mean for us? We've said, we recommend not holding an event on that day, and recognizing that students may not be in school and work is not, they have extensions to get work done. Right? That is what we do here.
Like last year, there was, I can't remember which one and which, but there was a major
Picture
event
Day
at
was
one
on
of the schools.
Yom Kippur.
A picture day, but also an after-school event,
Yeah.
and in the evening, that was a family-oriented thing, was held on one of like the either Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur. Like
this fall, we booked a CLEC meeting on Rosh Hashanah.
yeah, and it had to be
move it.
changed.
Yeah. Well, so my recommendation would be that we do not just the RIDE holidays, but also recommend no programming on the observance days as stated by RIDE. Like that would be a step.
Yep.
At least that would define it and be within RIDE, but then also clarify that we're also noting the observance days that RIDE has, and then provide the list as like just to be aware of.
Our current
Isn't that the
calendar,
motion on the floor?
It's not though because
what do we have on our calendar? I just want to look at
we have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and a few of the Muslim holidays.
right, but as far as like, what do we know as far as those observance?
I don't know if we do is what I'm saying, and so that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like the list should be clear of like it's the RIDE off days and the observance days.
So our
are the ones
calendar
that
says religious holiday observance. The North Kingstown School Department acknowledges and supports all of its members and their faith beliefs. For those who notify the school of holiday observance, absences are excused for school day and extracurricular activities. Students will be allowed a reasonable amount of time to reschedule any assessments, homework, or project deadlines with their teacher.
So, I think
policy, right? And then the policy that we put, I thought we had in the policy that we would not, like we would avoid scheduling something on those days.
So we know right now that kids will not be penalized,
Mhm.
right? Like we know that is clear in this district. I think where we were trying to move with this policy, which we worked on together, the collective we,
Yes.
is trying to move one step farther than that so that the kids didn't have to have the responsibility.
Mhm.
So like not only would they not be penalized, but they also didn't have to feel like they were missing out on something, not being able to participate in something that's important, not have to be the one that says, hey, I can't do this, and make themselves different than classmates. Like, I think we were trying to go one step further. So we know we have the
Yeah,
base.
and I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm questioning is the number of observance days
So
we're going to
what I said was, I think the number, based on this conversation, is the ride list and including the observed days, because we have not, as a district, been following not doing these things on the observed days. So that would be progress, is what I'm saying.
So that would add 3 more days.
This year.
Because Ride only has observance on 3 days. September 25th, March 29th, and April 10th.
No, what calendar are you looking at? I don't think that's...
This is Ride's doing
What year are you on?
23, 24?
Yeah, we're on 24, 25. I did the same thing. It's because it's the one that's linked on their website, which is a different problem for a different conversation. So this year in blue on this year's calendar, the 24-25 calendar.
When you go to the RIDE website, go in there, students, families, then Rhode Island Public Schools, and then school calendar. And their main things is view the 24-25 school calendar. So we all get on the same page.
Yeah, I'm on it now. On their main homepage,
So
though,
it's
it's
3
wrong.
days. All right, even being on the correct calendar, it's 3 days.
But is that what she's saying?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is follow the Ride holidays, the same what you're saying.
Yep.
Add in those 3 extra days, say we really don't want anything scheduled on those days, and then again, if a parent says, well, this is scheduled, it's a day of atonement, we can't be there, that
So
we
Interscholastic
follow the policy.
League, I think our policy states it's the school department. The Interscholastic League sets unfortunately, they set the calendar for the games.
That's excluded from
And
our
that
policy,
is,
though.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, so
Just
I'm
so-
going to revise this list to reflect based on what we talked about, and then I would suggest we don't vote on it tonight, I bring it back and we just look at it, and after we've all had a chance to think about it, we can vote on it then. That would be my recommendation. But I know there's already a
There's
motion
a
on the
motion
table.
on the
Yeah.
second on the floor.
It can be withdrawn, or we can vote on it.
I'll make the motion to say that we do exactly as Debbie said. Would you like to make that motion? I withdraw mine in lieu of yours if you want to do that.
All right, I make the motion that we follow the Rhode Island calendar with holidays as well as observed days,
But that's the 3 days extra you said.
with the additional 3 days.
Ken, what do you think of that?
I think that's what we were talking. I would just make you say Rhode Island
What?
Department of Education in the motion, just so we are clear on what calendar we're following.
All right, I'll second it.
We also have to know that it might change. Like, they've changed their calendars over the years.
Right.
Of what
They
they
do over the
reflect,
years,
what
yeah.
they
Follow
don't
what they,
reflect.
They revolve.
So with that said, we're fine with every other day then. We don't, that's just on the students for all those other ones, other than Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and
That's why I'm saying, if I could bring this back so people could visually see, I feel like just making, again, I'm not advocating for all these days, I'm actually okay with just.
so are you asking to table it, Jen, to bring back a revised version?
Yes.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Yeah, okay, further to,
Move the question.
all right, all those in
Somebody-
favor of approving the motion on the floor, please say aye.
Aye.
None. Motion carries. I guess you still have to do that work. We just did, it'll just be blind.
Yep.
That's fine. Okay, moving on to the next item.
Correspondence.
Correspondence?
September 25th, Megan Riley School Bond. September 30th, Sarah McPeak Safety Concern Monitors on K through 5 buses. 10-3, Mary Lopresti, status of proposed middle school renovations. 10-8, Tiffany Taglinetti, DMS lockdown. 10-8, Simone Richard, SRO at all MK schools. 10-8, Jillian Raposa, SRO in all our schools. 10-8, and 10-8, Jessica Beatty, school safety.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.